This meeting of the Eureka Springs City Council come to order. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Joyce Eller. Here. David Mitchell.
Here.
James DeVito.
Here.
Nikki Schneider.
Here.
Terry McClung.
Here.
D. Perky Pyle.
Here.
We have 6.
Thank you. Everybody please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, brings us to approval of the agenda. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, I need to add 2 items to new business for number 4 and number 5. Number 4 will be a resolution to purchase storage containers for the city shop. And then number 5 will be ordinance for funds for the new city shop building.
For the who?
New city shop building. Any other additions? Okay, no further. Motion to adopt the agenda is amended.
So moved. Second.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Brings us to approval of the minutes for April the 28th, 2014. Motion to discuss.
Motion to approve.
A second.
Second.
Changes, deletions, corrections? If none, all in favor of the minutes being adopted, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Abstain.
Okay, moves us on to committee reports. Under planning, for those that don't know, it may be some related news that Miss Denny Flaherty passed away first part of last week.
No.
Yeah. And according to the family, there has not been a memorial service set yet. So our condolences out to the family and thanking everybody for their participation in the city government. Okay. Under parks, according to an email, we're supposed to go ahead and renominate Draxie Rogers and Daniel Jackson for parks. We don't have their apps on our table, but they will be turning them in. You'll get them in your box. And then for the cemetery, Miss Mary Ann Pownall has renewed her application. I have it. If you want copies, we'll make those available to you. She's already on there. So, okay. Anything else on commission committee reports, Ms. Snyder?
I think we should just go ahead and approve Mary Ann, or discuss approving Mary Ann since she's been on there for so long. Why wait? So I'll make a motion that we accept Mary Ann's redoing the cemetery committee.
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Pownall is back on. Okay. Do you want to address the other 2 with Ms. Rogers and Mr. Jackson?
I'm sorry.
without an
Same thing
application
with
also?
both of them. As long as they still want to, I don't think we.
Oh,
need
did
to
you have their
separate them.
applications or you didn't?
No, they don't have them in yet, but they will be turning them in. You'll get copies of
Can
them.
we do it without the app?
Absolutely.
All right, then
Yes,
I make
just
a motion
pending
we
this
accept
paperwork.
both of them to renew also.
Mr. McClung?
Why not Mr. Featherstone?
His is not up yet, I don't think.
No, it says so. Bill Featherstone.
Okay, well, he has-
5/1/14.
Okay. He has not expressed that opinion yet, so if you want to go ahead and...
Throw him in there.
Okay. All right.
Throw him under the bus?
Change the motion to...
Okay, I make a motion to accept all 3 of the Parks Commissioners who have been done and who want to continue.
That would be Mr. Draxie Rogers, Daniel Jackson, and Bill Featherstone.
Second. Discussion.
Yes, sir.
Can we do one at a time, please, instead of as a group?
Yes, sir. We can.
If you don't mind. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll have to change the motion, I believe. Is that right,
Okay,
Mr.
I
Weaver?
make a motion we accept Draxie Rogers' renewal.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I make a motion we accept Daniel Jackson's renewal.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
If Bill Featherstone will do it, I make a motion we accept Bill Featherstone's renewal.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Okay. 5-1.
420.
Who was the other no?
James and David. I'm sorry, Joyce and David.
Okay, I didn't hear that. Okay, so Mr. Featherstone's on. That will cover the committee reports. Public comment. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to add a resolution to the new business. And that's one we definitely need to get on tonight. Before we start public comment, can we retro back to?
Yes, sir.
Devin?
Just
It'll be,
No problem.
it'll be, let me make sure you've got it. You should have a copy of it. It will be for a resolution for money to build the platform stage in the North Main Music Park.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it is. It is on
Yeah,
number.
I've got that one.
It is number 3. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My bad.
Oh.
Okay. All right. That moves us up to public comments. Miss Nancy Fuller, you're up. You got it.
Hello. I'm here to address the proposed ordinance which has been drafted that makes it illegal to create unnecessary, unnatural, or unusual noise, whether it is from a motorcycle or, in my case this last Saturday, the lawnmower that woke me up at 6:30 in the morning. The ordinance applies to any noise that annoys, disturbs, injures, or endangers the comfort, repose, health, peace, and safety of reasonable persons at any time, day or night. My questions are, who determines these parameters? That sounds pretty sufficiently vague and arbitrary enough to probably get thrown out the first time someone appeals it. I think ordinances need to be more specific. I want to know who or what decides what a reasonable person is, let alone what is unnecessary, unnatural, or unusual. I want to know who's going to enforce it. I want to know if local law enforcement have the necessary decibel equipment and training, and if not, how will it be obtained and paid for. Done a little research on the averages of all states with specific noise ordinances are as follows, and I'm specifically addressing motorcycles. For all motorcycles, 92 decibels while the engine is operating at idle speed, or 96 decibels while the engine is operating at 75% maximum engine speed, or 2,000 revolutions per minute, whichever is less. For 3- and 4-cylinder motorcycles, 100 decibels while the engine is operating at 5,000 revolutions per minute, or 75% of maximum speed. I'm just going to put it out on the table. I've heard the claims that this is not targeting bikers, but I want to know why cars with loud mufflers and loud stereos, like on Corvette Weekend and other car-themed weekends, as well as trucks with Jake brakes and straight pipes that are louder than motorcycles and much more prevalent, aren't being targeted. Bikers are riding recklessly, then ticket them. If they're making noise just like everyone else is. Noise is in the ear of the beholder. Outdoor concerts, bands in local businesses, parades, a homeowner's lawn tools. Some reasonable person will be annoyed, disturbed, and perceive injury that interrupts their repose, health, peace, and safety. The bottom line, in my opinion, this is targeting motorcycle riders. Deep down under all the hyperbole, we know what this is about, and beneath that is that some people do not make money when bikers are here. I've been in the service industry as long as I've lived here. There are groups that visit here who do me no financial good whatsoever, but I do not begrudge those places of business who do profit. The gripes that I hear from shop owners that I've spoken to is that the noise drives people away. Here's my bottom line. Your business may not make money during Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue, for example, but guess what? Your service industry people do. That jacket or nice pair of boots in your store, your server can now purchase those because bikers tip generously. That nice meal in your restaurant, paid for by bikers who took care of your bartender. And they can because bikers give more than the average tourist. In my experience, they're the most generous of all tourists in tipping. More and more municipalities are enacting local bylaws that focus on noise levels emitted by motorcycle exhaust, and on the surface, I'm sure most people will say this is a great idea, especially residents who are tired of hearing a loud motorcycle passing by with the throttle cracked wide open. Last year, we had over 250,000 bikes here in this town, and less than 0.04% of those people were cited or warned about noise. And I think this is unnecessary, and I think that we need to take a really close look at this and not rush it through.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Mr. Steve Arnold. come through that door right there. How you doing, sir?
Hello, I'm Steve Arnold, and slightly ironically, I was encouraged to come and speak with Nancy's encouragement. I hold a little bit on the same issue of the noise ordinance, a little bit, I think probably a little more in the middle of the road. I own a business in town, and the business that I have is called Meteorites and More, and it's on Spring Street in the heart of the limestone canyons that the bikers like to ride on. And a couple things. Number one, there are times when I like to have the door open just because it facilitates people coming in and out. And when a bike goes by and I don't know where the technical decibel level is, I have to literally just stop talking for 15 seconds or 30 or a minute and a half if there's a big string of bikes. And it's painful to have to do that in a business where you need to communicate with your customers. But I'll put up with it, and on the heavier bike weeks, I close the doors. And I think, to me, I view the problem as a really tiny, less than 1% of the bikers, and it's the ones that are narcissistic and bullies. And a good example of that is I was walking out of the Rowdy Beaver 2 weeks ago, and there was a bike coming down Spring, and as he almost got to me, he revved his pipes up as loud as he could go. And I thought it was like he was doing it to me, but he turned to look at the medium to large sized dog that was in the pickup with the windows rolled down, and the dog went crazy in there, and he's laughing as he's going by. And it was just kind of like, really? And so it's that little tiny 1% or less that probably gives a problem, and I would assume that most bikers don't like those type of people that act bullying. And to me, I believe that if there was some type of enforceable, and that's key, laws, regulations, and that could be enforced and would be enforced, I think it would discourage people from acting in bad ways. And that's all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mr. Charles Stanley. How you doing, sir? Please introduce yourself.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Charles Stanley, and I'm here to address, I've been a resident and taxpayer in this unique village for 35 years, and would like to keep it unique. I'm addressing the Clean EUREKA Act. I'm just suggesting that these things might be arbitrary as well as subjective, and I'm offering my opposition to this. So that's all I have to say. And don't forget the White Street Walk.
Thank you, sir. That'll do it for public comments. Okay. Moves us on to unfinished business. Number one is ordinance for film industry tax incentive. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
For a second.
Second.
Floor is open. Come on up, Miss Sandy.
Hello again. There were two,
Good for you?
I
Okay.
think so. There were two documents circulated for your review prior to the meeting. One was at the request of Mr. McClung, who wanted to know a little bit more about the process and an example of how it would work. So that's been submitted. And the process, the example that was used for the process were the actual figures in rebate on Crystal, the movie that was shot here. And we detailed the percentage that was done for lodging, food catering, hardware, landscape, and others. So you could see the breakdown. Generated quite a bit of revenue. The other documents you have, there was a packet of documents. Those are the proposed permit applications and location applications specific to Eureka Springs. So now you have an ordinance draft by City Attorney Mr. Weaver, permit applications, location applications, process procedures, and we have a manual in the process.
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
What was the problem that came up with this at the CAPC meeting? There was mentioned something about not being able to give rebates or something to film companies. What was it about?
There was some ambiguity about whether the CAPC had the authority to rebate back to a production company taxes. The resolution has been crafted by the Arkansas Film Commission with the Municipal League, so I personally don't see an issue there.
Okay, but did we go any further with that? Did we make any phone calls or anything?
Yes, we are going further. I talked to Christopher Crane, and he is going to meet again with the Municipal League specifically on that and ask them two items. Because as Mr. DeVito said, the issue that Mr. Ragsdale has was using public money for a private entity. And whether this is construed as a private entity in the strictest sense as opposed to in the support of arts is the issue. The statutes that, or the opinions that were cited by Mr. Ragsdale were actually existing companies and giving them money on a rebate. That was an inappropriate use of it. But, we had no problems when we did Crystal, which was a line item type of thing. So we have two drafts that Mr. Crane is taking to the Municipal League. They're a little bit caught up in some issues right now on the state level. But he is going to get an opinion on that as well and make sure that we're all buttoned up on that. But initially, the Municipal League saw no issue.
Okay.
But we will pursue it and get something in writing.
Okay.
Anybody else? Mr. McClung, Mr. Burke.
Yeah, and what they're referring to is just the CAPC part only. The city tax is not an issue. What we're doing here, so we can follow through with the ordinance should we decide to, and go ahead and do it first reading tonight. We can do that.
Well, what I had wondered is if the CAPC part of it involved money that they could not give to the film company, would the entire burden then fall on the city? That was my question, because I didn't quite understand what the procedure was.
We're dealing with the opinion of one commissioner at the CAPC.
Yeah.
And that's not reflected in the membership of the CAPC, but the one commissioner has some questions that Sandy's getting answers for him on.
Yeah, well, since it was brought up publicly in the newspaper, I really feel that we should clarify it for the public. If nothing else, we just shouldn't ignore it.
And we will do that. And as far as the burden goes, if something happens and the CAPC does not do anything, it just makes our incentive a little less lucrative and enticing. Okay. But it shouldn't prohibit. And we have all the confidence in the world that it's going to be cleared up and clarified to everybody's satisfaction.
Okay, I just wanted to address it because it had been brought up. Okay.
Mr. Burke.
And remind me again, Sandy, this is the city's, okay, I see here, the city shall have there shall be a cap of 2% sales tax rebate. And that's the city's portion of that.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any further? Okay. Is there a motion to Mr. DeVito?
I'd like to make a motion to assign this ordinance a number and place it on its first reading.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Stand by. Thank you, Sandy.
The ordinance number will be 2208. An ordinance providing for local film incentives. Whereas the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas has made a comprehensive review of film incentives, and whereas the City of Eureka Springs desires to offer economic incentives to the film industry in the form of a rebate on sales and usage tax taxes paid on all goods, services, lodging, food, lease, rental, and other production expenditures made within the city limits. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, that Section 1, definitions. Film industry shall mean film, digital, and television productions, commercials, and music videos. B, post-production shall mean work required for creating the final product, including but not limited to editing sound, audio, music, special effects, and other related activities. C, City of Eureka Springs sales tax means sales taxes levied by the City of Eureka Springs, excluding the portion of the sales taxes dedicated by law or debt obligations to another purpose. Section 2, incentives are subject to the production company entering into a contract with the City of Eureka Springs relative to the incentive payments. There shall be a cap of 2% sales tax rebate to any individual project or production for new productions by a new production company within the City of Eureka Springs. Section 3, requirements for rebates. A, the production office must be located in the city limits of Eureka Springs. B, have acceptable expenditures of the type listed in Section 4 paid within Eureka Springs city limits amounting to at least $250,000, parentheses, to be determined by council. C, in order to qualify for the enhanced subsequent production cap, both the original and the subsequent production must meet the criteria listed in Sections 6 and 7 of this ordinance. D, the production company must enter into a contract with the City of Eureka Springs relative to the incentive payments prior to the beginning of production in Eureka Springs. E, payment and eligibility for incentives shall be subject to such reasonable rules and regulations as determined by the City Council of Eureka Springs. Section 4, expenditures. Productions meeting the above requirements will be eligible for incentive payments equal to the following expenditures. A, lodging for the cast and crew incurred in the City of Eureka Springs. B, lease or rental expenses, including all lease of rental or rental expenses for equipment, automobiles, sound stage, location, or production of the project and post-production. C, other production and post-production expenses, including purchases of materials and supplies related to the production of the project and post-production. Section 5, application process. A, upon executing a lease or rental agreement, applicant should contact the State Film Office to begin the pre-qualification process. Film industry determinations of eligibility will be made by the State Film Office. B, the application shall include all information required by the City of Eureka Springs, including but not limited to 1, total projected budget, 2, estimated total of expenditures eligible for the sales tax rebate, 3, estimated room nights, 4, list of vendors and services likely to be utilized. C, if the application is approved by the City of Eureka Springs, the production company shall enter into an agreement with the City of Eureka Springs for the incentive payments. D, when the production efforts in the City of Eureka Springs are completed and all taxes paid, the applicant may apply for payment. Payment must be requested no later than 180 days from the completion of production. Payments will be made after the city has reviewed and, if necessary, audited the expenses in the application. Payment of incentives is subject to funding as follows. The City of Eureka Springs will appropriate funds for incentive payments in an amount determined by the City Council and adopted in a budget ordinance. The mayor will be authorized to execute agreements for incentive payments up to the amount of the incentives authorized herein until all appropriate funds have been expended or encumbered by the execution of agreements. Once funds appropriated in a fiscal year have been expended or encumbered, no further incentive agreements will be executed for that fiscal year unless additional funds are appropriated for that purpose. In the event an agreement is entered into or a production extending into a future fiscal year, the agreement will include a non-appropriated clause making incentive payments in future years for that production subject to the appropriation of funds for that purpose. Section 7. This incentive program applies to expenditures in the City of Eureka Springs for production begun after the effective date of these provisions. For the purpose of the enhanced subsequent cap, the original production may have already begun, but must still be ongoing at the time of the adoption of these provisions. Section 8, all ordinances and resolutions or parts thereof and conflict were with are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict. Section 9, that the provisions of this ordinance are hereby declared to be separable, and if any provision shall for any reason be held illegal or invalid, such holding shall not affect the validity of the remainder of this ordinance.
Mr. DeVito.
Move to approve ordinance number 2208 on its first reading.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Are we doing discussions?
Zip right by it.
Yes, go ahead.
Being is, I think the sooner we get this passed, and I'm not advocating 3 readings tonight, but I would like to go with a second reading because I feel confident that we can move this out of the CAPC in a short time here. So this will give you your discussion part. I'd move to suspend the rules and place ordinance number 2208 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
Okay, stand by.
Can we have a discussion before we
Yes,
vote?
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. First page, section B, 250,000 to be determined by council. Do we need to do that for each and every contract, or do something now
No.
for all contracts?
When you put it in the ordinance, that's what it is for every contract.
Pardon me?
When you set the amount in the ordinance, that's what it's going to be for every contract.
All right, well, this was the suggested price. Are we supposed to be deciding if that's what we want?
It says to be determined by the council. So
Well,
yes.
That-
Do we need to determine?
Sandy is. I'm saying yes, but
Here you
apparently
are.
they're not hearing me.
Okay,
Yeah.
why don't you come on back?
Yeah.
Okay, so was this just a number they pulled out of their hat, or is this what other places do, or an average? or
It's
what?
consistent with the state minimum expenditure of
Okay.
200, and it's kind of a protection to get a higher quality film production crew in here. So it's a recommendation. Mr. Crane suggested somewhere between 150 and 250,000 to start off with, and it can be modified later on if we feel that it's too high or too low. Hopefully it'll be too low.
So maybe like 150 to 200 would be better to start, and if we start getting companies, we could up it if we wanted.
Absolutely, you could.
Okay, well, council, discuss, how do you feel?
Mr. Perkins.
This, all it says is amounting to at least 250,000. That seems to be a reasonable cap. Production for independent films, let's say, are going to hit that real quickly as a minimum. So, and then we have in parentheses, it can be determined by council what that happens to be.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do we want to start with 250? Do we want to go lower,
Yes.
higher, or what?
I say yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
I don't know.
let's just vote on the 250,000 right now before we do the roll call. All in favor of the 250,000 for the amount in section B, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Now we have a
Keep
motion.
in, you guys.
Motion to suspend the rules
Suspend the
and
rules.
approve on second
We
read.
have a second.
We have a second. Okay, stand by for the roll call vote.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. Perkypile?
Yes.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Ms. Zeller?
Yes.
Ms. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
6-0. Ordinance 2208, an ordinance providing for local film incentives.
Mr. DeVito.
Move to approve ordinance number 2208 on its second reading.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I assume spelling will be fixed. Arkansas?
Okay,
There's only one letter, but geez.
all right. Moves us on to number 2, which will be Ordinance 2207, reclaiming unnamed street, Rock Street. This will be a third read. Motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss. Second.
Floor is open. Mr. Mitchell.
Since this is a third reading and the topic is specifically the reclaiming of Rock Street from parks by the city, not any peripheral issues, I make a motion that we read ordinance number 2207 on its third reading by title only.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. Stand by for a roll call vote.
Mr. Perkypile.
Yes.
Ms. Zeller.
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. McClung.
Yes?
Mr. DeVito.
Yes.
Ms. Schneider.
Present.
501.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Ordinance number
Okay, you
220.
better read it first. Go ahead.
Ordinance number 2207, an ordinance reclaiming authority over an unnamed, unopened street located between Block 1 and Block 2 of the Magnetic Bay Survey, as platted on the Riley and Armstrong plat of 1893, Carroll County, Arkansas, from the Parks Commission's authority previously granted over green space within the city of Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
Okay. Mr. Wade would like to make a comment or two to the council.
I think everybody knows me, and I represent Marble Flats with regard to this particular issue. We've been coming down here for, well, it seems like forever, and I'm sure you guys are tired of seeing us. But I've come tonight and specifically wanted to speak because my clients have authorized me to throw out on the table a suggestion that might solve the problem for Mr. and Ms. Bricks, might solve the problem for Marble Flats, and certainly could save the city some litigation in the event that this continues to move forward. Specifically, what I've been authorized to state is that my clients will specifically approach parks and work to find a alternate location with regard to any trail system that needs to cross down Rock Street and essentially move it off of Mr. and Ms. Bricks' property. Find a location. I'm not stating where because I don't know at this point in time, and that could involve other neighbors as well. But find a location to remove the trail system from Mr. and Ms. Bricks' property, and basically what we would be asking in exchange for that is that the petition to vacate the street be withdrawn. We're not asking for anything other than what we currently have, which is a platted city street. But we would ask for that petition to vacate to have it withdrawn. So,
Mr. Mitchell.
I'm a little confused here. The topic was reclaiming Rock Street from parks and giving it to the city. It's nice to hear from the Marble Flats attorney in an 11th hour. I don't know what that is exactly. But right now, all we're talking about is reclaiming Rock Street to the city. The issue between the Bricks or Marble Flats or the principals, the vacating process hasn't even started yet. We're just reclaiming. So I find it most peculiar that we have this 11th hour proposal that's not ironed out, that just, to me is just a tactic to stall, and I find it slightly offensive. That's it.
Mr. Snyder.
Y'all know where I stand on this in regards to I wanted a legal land expert to give a legal opinion, but I want to ask a question and have some honest thinking. Why in the world would we remove it from parks unless the next step is to vacate? I mean, come on, guys, let's get real. Everybody knows that's the next step, and what they are trying to do apparently is to put this in the public so Brooks can respond, we can hear what's being said, and see what's coming down the pike.
Ms. Allen?
I would like to suggest that we limit the debate and the discussion on this to the ordinance that is on the table now, and that is removing Rock Street from the Park District and placing it under the jurisdiction of the city. And I think all other discussion on this matter should be postponed until it is on the agenda. I mean, I object to discussing anything except voting on this ordinance that's on the table now.
Let's go with Mr. McClung this time.
Let's call a spade a spade. You know, we know what this is going to lead to. It's going to lead to an ordinance being drafted, more than likely, to do exactly what the Bricks want, and that's to vacate the street. So, you're right. One thing, tonight's vote doesn't matter, really.
Yeah.
It does to Parks, but it looks like it's not going to go in Parks' favor. However, when it comes to the next round, and that's what this is all is leading to, is be prepared that if an ordinance is drafted and you pass that ordinance, you're going to open the city up for a lawsuit.
Well, be that as it may, that's not on the table tonight. That's not what we're discussing tonight.
No, it's not, Joyce.
We'll
But
discuss
it
it later.
isn't. It isn't, but it is.
Okay.
So just be prepared.
Okay, I'm prepared.
Okay.
Mr. Mitchell?
These veiled threats even coming from a council person at this table about the city being sued, we're always being sued or attempted to be sued by somebody somewhere sometime. So that veiled threat from a council person at this table is exactly what it is, and it's inappropriate. And I'm finished.
All right.
I'm not finished yet.
Okay.
I have
Go
the
ahead.
floor.
Go ahead and finish.
We have walking maps from the city that are excellent, all these trails that go around and everything. We have a map here that ended up proposed trails that show sidewalks and roads on a master plan. Yet going out North Main is an ADA compliant sidewalk all the way to the rail station. It's lit. It's ADA compliant. It passes some really nice restrooms now. You don't have to pee in the woods.
Or
You
Mr.
have an
Perkins.
opportunity to not trip on rocks and roots and everything. And at the same time, it runs parallel to what Parks wants as a trail, just, maybe not even 100 yards up through the woods. But yet we have a perfectly good sidewalk. And we have sidewalks and streets all through this town that are part of trails. So reclaiming Rock Street from Parks and then entering the discussion at the appropriate time as to where it goes is the way it should be.
Mr. Perkins. Making sure.
Even though, and it might not be germane, it is germane to the end discussion here. I had asked, personally, I was asked to go out on each of the parties' sites. And I've posited some sort of, I put out there that it would be really good to have some sort of compromise, where all the parties, both parties in this issue were willing to work with each other towards a compromise. And I think, Mr. Williams, I appreciate that you came forward with that. And that sounds to me like a good step forward in terms of achieving some sort of compromise. So I appreciate you bringing that forward. I think that was apropos.
Mr. McClung.
I guess what I said was not maybe the lawsuit is potential, and that's right, it can always happen. But I think what we need to do as a council, we need to have a true comprehension of what the state statute allows for. That's going to be the real guideline as to what we can or cannot do as a city council in regards to vacation. That's all.
Thanks, sir.
Fair.
Mr. DeVito.
It's fair.
I guess I've been on this council long enough to grow a little bit wary of threatened lawsuits. I find it unfortunate in a small community like this, where we all have the goal of developing Eureka Springs to its potential, that some people do resort to lawsuits. I find that just a bit disconcerting. Yeah, we have platted streets on maps, and I've been involved in other issues where people fought to open those platted streets. And what a street looks like on a map and what the reality of a street in Eureka Springs are is really two different things. Goat trails, in my opinion, as a builder, really don't constitute practical streets. There's a lot of avenues for compromise in this situation, and I just grow weary of the threats of lawsuits. We all share the common goals in this community, and we can all succeed with our goals. And I hope the interested parties can sit down together and try to come to a rational agreement on this. But I'm committed to what I think is right in this situation.
Mr. Mitchell.
I make a motion we
Rapid.
pass ordinance number 2207 on its third reading.
Title only.
By title only.
She's read it? You've read it already? Okay.
Oh, she read it. I think
So
isn't that
yours is to
just pass it? Is that what you do?
motion to approve.
Motion to approve ordinance 2207 on its third reading by title only.
No, just
on its third reading.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Second?
Second.
We'll need to roll call that one. So stand by.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Ms. Schneider?
Present.
Ms. Eller?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
No.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Perkypile?
Yes.
4-1-1.
Okay. Passes. All right.
Moving right along.
Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Okay. That moves us on to ordinance 2201 be the third read.
Hopefully, third reading.
Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Floor is open. Yes, sir.
Question for the attorney. Since we're up to the third reading and since the last proposed changes that went out to everybody on the third was specific to the first section up through section stopping at section number 5.0405 was where all the changes were. Tim, how do you make a motion to pass it and at the same time then acknowledge the change in the title and the changes that were made without just having to, or do you just have to read the whole thing again?
I think you specifically at this point have to make amendments to the document.
Amendments to the document, okay.
And so, I mean, unless you want to give it a whole new number, and I don't think it justifies that at this point, really.
Okay, so just make a motion to, and
You would make a motion to read it, and then after it's been read, assuming it gets the proper votes, then you would each make any motions you have to strike or add material as amendments
make a motion to read by title only, third reading.
to begin for the third reading, and then make your motions to amend.
And then after the amending,
You would vote for final approval
but without reading the whole thing with the 5 million changes we've made.
without making them, unless council feels it appropriate, and then you would simply not vote for the original motion to read by title only.
Okay, and if there's more amendments tonight, it wouldn't be better to wait until the next meeting to read the hopefully final amended
It's not what council normally does. Council normally amends and passes right afterward.
It's just that this has been changed so much.
Mr. Mitchell.
Well, to kick it off then, I make a motion to read ordinance number 2201 by title only for its third reading.
Second.
Okay. No suspension of the rules?
Suspend the rules.
Oh, suspend the rules and read
Okay. All right.
title,
All right.
ordinance 2201 by title only.
And then we get to discuss.
And there is
right?
a second.
Okay.
It's coming.
I was going to turn it around.
No, it's there.
Ms. Schneider?
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes?
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Mr. Perkypile?
Yes.
Ms. Eller?
Yes.
6-0.
Ms. Snyder?
Okay, trying to go through my myriad notes since we didn't do this last month or last meeting either.
Can you read it by title? Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Read it. Didn't he call on me?
Yes, I did. Oh, I'm sorry. She's going to read it. I was thinking she already read it, duh. Okay.
Ordinance 2201, an ordinance repealing municipal code sections 5.04.01 through 5.04.09, maintenance of real property, and replacing with code sections 5.04.01 through 5.04.11.
Now try it again.
Okay. Oh, there it is, front page. Okay. Boy, I've got a lot of questions that I need feedback on from the council in regards to a lot of things on here. Okay, as a starter, second page, number 14. Medicinal plants / weeds, plants, herbs grown for medicinal purposes as opposed to growing them for culinary or ornamental purposes must be cultivated as in a garden or bed area, not part of the lawn. Why? Medicinal plants, meaning plants or herbs, do not necessarily need to be gardenized. A lot of these things are natural to the area, natural to us, and some of them don't even cultivate well. I really, really, really do not think 14 is appropriate. Well, in fact, as Becky Gillette said at the last meeting during public comment, she's talking about one of those little things. I have one whole section in my yard that's nothing but, and it feeds the bees. It's also a really neat tea later on. This is not something you can cultivate, but it's right there in one section of my yard. The dogs love it. They chase bees. So, like I said, I've got a real problem with number 14. I understand wanting to keep yards neat and clean both for property values of our property and the neighbors and for the looks of the town and all that, but I'm having a real problem with number 13 and number 14 in that regard. And I thought it was a very good comment brought up at the last public hearing in regards if people are gone, if they have a family emergency, so on and so forth. Section 5.04.04, the next page, and including .08 on the page after that. People guilty of an unclassified misdemeanor may be fined up to $100, and that has been changed to that from what it was. For second and subsequent offenses, the fine may be up to $200. Each day the violation continues shall constitute a separate offense. Well, if you have a family emergency, a family situation, you can't necessarily get back or do. I spent a month with one of my family members when they were really, really ill. And it was summertime, lots of rain. I mean, these things happen. I really have a problem. Yeah, I know. I saw that. The city building official is further authorized to negotiate with the property owner a plan of corrective action. that shall not exceed 30 days. I'm having a problem with people having to cultivate their yard, okay? And if we have a person who says, tough, I don't feel like doing my yard, that's when I can see a daily fine, but otherwise, 10 days and 30 days is not a whole lot. The other part I have a major problem with is having the Historic District Commission involved in this. These guys are not experts in regards to construction or deconstruction, as the case may be. They're experts in regards to historicness. Why would they have anything to do in regards to these two places where they are 5.04, 0.06, and 0.07? I don't understand their inclusion. I understand the certificate of appropriateness, and that's it. They should not be having any kind of authority in regards to who and what and when and how something is going to be demolished. They don't know that kind of stuff, you know? And I'm real confused on 5.04, 0.07F. Near the bottom of that other page. I don't understand this at all. It says the persons or business designated by the mayor after competitive bidding to tear down or remove any such house, building, and or structure constituting a nuisance will ensure the removal thereof and dispose of the same in such a manner as deemed appropriate in the circumstances. To that end, they may, if the same has a substantial value, sell said house, building, or structure. If it's gotten to this point, it's supposed to be getting demolished. How can they sell the house or the building or the structure? I understand the next part of that sentence, or any saleable material thereof by public sale to the highest bidder for cash after 10 days' notice. I don't understand. This is supposed to be to demolish, and all of a sudden they can sell it? If the house can be repaired, brought back up to snuff, why do we have a demolition order on it? I don't know if I'm missing something or what, but it seems to me if this house can be sold to be redone, it shouldn't have been put under demolish until nobody was willing to go to that expense. See what I mean? In other words, it should be trying to be sold first with the idea of redoing. If there isn't anybody, then we demolish it because it's obviously going to fall down anyway, or is in the process thereof. And just one more point, and then you can grab it, James. 5.04.09. In regards to vehicles left in the yard, yada yada. I guess it's 0.08, but the part I was on 9. The delivery. Okay, it says, the owners or occupants of property within the city limits of Eureka Springs are hereby required to remove motorized vehicles, trailers, boats, and equipment that are inoperable and have been parked 14 days in sight from a city street. The vehicle or equipment shall be presumed to be inoperative when any of the following conditions exist. Number 1, one or more flat tires. Number 2, wheels missing. 3, weeds or grass have grown around it. 4, the vehicle has no current registration. And 5, any damage that would render it unusable. Let me give you a scenario. My Marine son shipped overseas 4 years. He and I like to go fishing. I have a boat strictly for he and I to go fishing with. That little puppy is going to sit in the corner of my yard for 4 years while he's in Iraq or Afghanistan. Why am I going to spend the money to license it during that 4-year period when I'm not about to touch it until he comes home? If the tires get a little flat, big deal, we can air them up. I'm probably not going to waste my time cutting any grass underneath. But the registration is the biggest thing. When you have an item that is specifically for one thing, as in this case, you're not going to waste, the general average person is not going to waste money on an annual registration they know for a fact is not going to be used for at least 2, 3, 4 years. So I have a bit of a problem. I think that needs some tweaking or something, a way out, whatever. I also understand you don't want a bunch of crappy-looking cars or boats sitting in the middle of the city. So I think this needs to be a little bit more exclusive, appropriately worded.
Mr. DeVito.
Okay, I'm done.
There's always going to be an exception to every rule. To try and craft an ordinance to address every single circumstance imaginable is impossible. We do the best job we can on crafting an ordinance and getting it out into the real world, and that's where we will find out if we've made any mistakes. I think we've been very diligent in trying to address every issue, and the reason we're going to amend this ordinance is because we found out that there are some things that are of concern, and we've responded to the concerns of the people and are going to amend this ordinance thusly. That can also occur 6 months from now. That can also occur a year from now. We've had a comprehensive review of this ordinance. There's been public hearings. This has been taken from other cities' ordinances that have had real-world experiences. The best thing we can do at this point is to pass this ordinance and see what happens. And that's how it is with every law that we do. Because somewhere, somehow, somebody may find something that we've overlooked, and we have the ability to address that through amendments. I think it's impossible to address every possible scenario there is. You just do the best job you can. And I think there's been a lot of thought and time and effort put into this ordinance, and I think it should go ahead tonight.
Mr. Mitchell.
I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance number 2201 as follows. Is that right?
That's the city attorney. Does that sound good?
As follows. And I'm getting ready to do the as follows?
Up to this point, it's fine.
Okay. As follows. Title. Changing to an ordinance repealing municipal code sections 5.0401-5.0409, maintenance of real property, and replacing it with code sections 5.0401-5.0411. Next change. Number 13, addition of the definition lawn. A plot of grass usually tended or mowed as one around a residence or in a park or business. For this ordinance in Eureka Springs, we're referring to the lawn visible from a street or alley. Number 14, under definitions, medicinal plants, weeds. Plants, herbs grown for medicinal purposes as opposed to growing them for culinary or ornamental purposes must be cultivated as in a garden or bed and not part of a lawn. Section 1, Section 5.0401, A. Strike all of A, add a new A. Adding A. Cut front and side lawns visible from the street that exceeds 8 inches. Remove or cut weeds visible from the street or alley. Maintain garden flower areas and shrubs visible from the street or alley. Medicinal plants, plants may be cultivated in a garden flower bed setting. Bamboo may be cultivated within the city limits but must not encroach upon another citizen's or city property or become an obstacle to vision from drivers. Continuing amendments, Section 5.0402, addition of the sentence. The city building official is further authorized to negotiate with the property owner a plan of corrective action that shall not exceed 30 days. Section 5.0404, changing the fine to $100 for second and subsequent $200.
Up to
200, up to 100. Under Section 5.0410, up to $100 changed and up to $200, and that's all the amendments.
Okay, Mr. Perkypile?
I'd like to propose some amendments to your amendments. Can I do that?
And then I'll amend your amendments.
And I'll
No.
throw in my 2 cents
It would be
worth.
here on that.
No. You can't amend the amendment until the amendment exists.
So wait until we...
It has
All
to
right,
be
so let's
voted
just
on.
keep
Can add it.
So we'll
discussing
pass it
it.
first.
Why don't we just
If it
keep
passes.
discussing it before amending it?
Can we do it that way? There's the...
No, wait.
He better tell us.
Can we keep discussing instead of amending?
Right now, do you have
You
a
just made a
second?
motion and a
I
second.
don't think I have a second, no.
Okay.
Second.
Now
Just a second.
discussing it. Or
But
you vote
but
all
what
the
I mean is,
amendments.
if he wants to amend some of his amendments, can we just plain discuss these are the
You really
proposed
should vote
amendments?
one set of amendments at a time.
So we have to vote yes or no on this set of amendments before we can change
Because it
anything.
hasn't been changed
Yeah.
yet, so
He
you
can't
vote
say,
no,
this
nothing.
is what I'm
Okay.
proposing, and he can say, well, let's change this one?
No, we have to vote yes or no on these first.
Yes.
That doesn't
But
make sense.
Mr. Perky's probably
Yes,
still
okay.
gets a chance to add amendments, right?
Yeah,
We're not
you can
cutting it
add
off.
amendments,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
So why can't we discuss and do it
vote.
once?
Procedure.
Because you have to have an amendment to amend first, and right now, you don't have an amended version of this yet.
That's what I'm talking
until
about.
it's
This-
voted on, and
That's
then
what
you
I'm
can go
saying,
back and...
discuss the possible amendments to come.
No,
No.
can't do
Okay,
that. We don't float.
that's logical.
Okay. This one, the suspension rules is just amendment, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No,
Okay.
we're voting to approve his
To the
amendments.
amendments that he just read.
Okay, I vote no on that.
Okay. All right.
Okay. What was that? 5-1?
I'm saying this because I want to see what the new amendments are going to be.
Okay.
Minor.
Okay, now we've amended that.
Yes, Mr. Perkypile.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to bring forward some amendments to the amended ordinance number 2201. I'd like to make that motion.
Second?
The motion, it's very simple. It's definitions 14, medicinal plants. The last sentence, I think, should be struck, and I don't see that we need to, I think it should be struck. We don't need to have it in a cultivated garden. And then section 1A, the new A, therefore take out the medicinal weeds, plants.
Point of order.
Sir.
Yes.
Could we take these amendments and vote on them one at a time, and as opposed to voting on them as a block of amendments?
Oh, this is
We
the
might-
same thing.
So we just did that.
I understand what we just did, and Mr. Perkypile is proposing amendments that are new to us, and I think the chance for success of his amendments, taken one by one as opposed to a package, would have more chance of passing.
Okay.
Mr. Weaver?
Well,
They can do it either way. So
this is just very minor. It's the same sentence struck. That's all it is. The same sentence must be cultivated as in a garden or bed area and not part of a lawn. And
Where's
number
that?
14, definitions.
Yeah.
And then in section 1A, medicinal weed plants may be cultivated. No, actually, I don't even want to strike that because it says may be cultivated. That's fine.
Okay.
So it's just 14.
Just 14.
Okay, is there a second?
Okay.
Second? I'll second
Okay.
that.
But I already
Do we have discussion now?
Okay. Any further discussion on it? Yes, sir.
Point of reference. It was put in there, must be cultivated in a garden or bed area, not part of a lawn, because look at lawn up above. It says it's a plot of grass usually tended or mowed. So if you've got medicinal weeds or plants that's part of your lawn, how are you going to mow around them to get it under 8 inches or under?
May I respond to that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
asking you.
Well,
the question.
typically these are natural meadows or hillsides, and these are native plants, native flowering plants. So they're not really part of a lawn or any cultivated area. They're natural. They're gathered naturally from these areas that are not cultivated. So that's my whole intent there. I think there's a lot of heartache about that
Okay.
because of all the natural plants here, and we can see in the springtime, if you had to cut all those weeds, you wouldn't have all those beautiful wildflowers.
So those medicinal plants in the lawn that you're mowing is not what you're talking about?
No.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, Ms. Snyder?
I have a question for David because he worked so much on this. Why is the HDC included?
The HDC was included because they're part of the process for declaring a business to be a building to be non-contributing to the historical district, and the significance of it. If they're not part of the process, then you don't have an historical district. They're actually supposed to be responsible for all the buildings within this historic district, and if they're not part of the process and people start demolishing businesses or buildings, and we know we've identified through Bobby Ray, I think 5 or 6 was the concern, then the HDC was just made part of the process to assure that we maintain our historical district status.
So all they're supposed to be doing is saying, yes, this is a historical building, or
they're supposed
a
to be
contributing.
and they're supposed to get in with the building inspector and say, there's nothing we can do. We can't find anybody to fix it, and it's not going to affect our status.
Okay, I guess my problem is with them saying we can't find any, or we need to find someone. I can understand them saying, if we can save it, it's contributing. I don't see that they should be the ones contacting an expert that can or cannot do the work. That's where I'm having a problem there.
That's the building inspector. They're not. It was still left with the building inspector.
Like I said, I have no problem with the program. If all they're saying is, yes, this is a contributing building.
That was the
Fine.
That's the way I
You
read
know?
it, and the way Glenn and I worked it out, and she didn't see it that they were overextending their authority.
Well, it says they may review an application for demolition
May.
before the city council considers.
May.
Yes, I stressed may.
But
That's
that was
arbitrary.
important for the integrity of the district and keeping it.
It still has to come to council.
So we
Mr.
don't want
McClung.
to just say they can tell us if it's contributing or not?
Currently, you can't really demolish one. They're supposed to be salvaged somehow, some way, but sometimes it just can't be. And so what this does, this allows that to happen, because they're just, for one reason or another, they're not going to be reclaimed or that's not the right word, but restored or. And so this allows the city a process to let that happen, and it's not something that's going to happen in 24, 48 hours. It's going to evolve, and it's a property owner is going to have every chance they can to either do the work or liquidate the property. I think it's good in
I'm
that respect.
just concerned with people who are experts in one part trying to do the job of an expert in another part. That's
No.
my problem. Okay.
Mr.
If that
Perkoff.
isn't happening, I have no
Mr.
problem.
Mayor, before we get too lost in other issues, if we could finish the vote on this amendment.
Had a second.
Sorry.
Have a
Okay.
vote on that.
Motion made and seconded. No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That amendment's done. Ms. Snyder.
Okay, I would like to do an amendment under 5.04.08, number 4. I would like to remove the vehicle has no current registration.
Okay. Can I throw in a little question here? Okay, vehicle is something you usually drive. If you're talking about a boat trailer, that's not a vehicle.
It's
It has-
covering all of it. Trailers, boats, equipment.
Okay, but it says vehicle.
It's
That's-
motorized. Motorized vehicles, trailers, boats, and equipment that have been parked for 14 days.
Okay. But it says the vehicle has no current registration. That means.
Yeah, that I would like to
Got
have like per the example I gave.
Okay, all right. Is there a second to that?
logical.
A vehicle is
The
not a boat.
second on, no, wait, what is your
On
amendment?
removing number 4.
Okay, I'll second that.
What exactly are we removing? It's 5.04.08.
And
Yes.
number 4 under that, the vehicle has no current registration.
I'd also like to remove 1, but we'll
Mr.
get to
Perkins.
that.
Okay. In the body of that 5.0408, it says, are hereby required to remove motorized vehicles, comma, trailers, comma, boats, and/or equipment. Then down here, it says, if the following conditions exist, it says the vehicle is identified separately. That's typically a motorized vehicle, one that you drive. That's the intention of that, and I think that's appropriate. It's not intended to be for
Just a vehicle or
boats or
equipment. A boat is a vehicle on water, and it's usually motorized.
You're not going to make that
Not
case.
the trailer.
no,
Trailer is attached to either one.
no. We're referring to the vehicle, and I will defer to
Well,
the
then it's
mayor. I
going to
mean,
be cleared.
It's clear to all of us.
No, it's not.
Well, let's just vote on the fact that she wants it removed, okay? Is there a second on her? Okay, there's made and seconded, Ms. Zeller seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Okay.
Who's next? Ms. Snyder.
Well, then I make a motion that we clean up the wording so it's very clear that the numbers 1 through 5 are strictly on a car or whatever kind of motorized equipment you may be talking about. And it does not pertain to boats and trailers. Because otherwise, intent of the law, it's got vehicles, trailers, boats, and equipment, and the next line says vehicle or equipment, that is automatically going to include by intent of law everything in between it, as previously worded.
Good second. Mr. McClung.
Maybe I'll just wait and see if we
Okay.
can second it.
No, go ahead. I withdraw
Well,
that question.
I was just
and
going to
second.
say that a trailer, once a trailer's licensed, it doesn't get, you don't re-register it. It's good and as long as you own it.
Sure.
So you don't have to re-register a trailer, so the registration's as long as you
That's
own
why
it.
it says permanent trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a boat and a car, you do.
Boat sitting on the trailer, then it's,
The trailer has
Mr. Mitchell.
anything to do with it.
Maybe if we changed and used the definition that's in the front of motor vehicle, that would make it more palatable for Mrs. Snyder.
It says motorized vehicles.
I was-
That's a motor vehicle.
That's what I thought.
I mean, I read it clearly. I don't think anybody else is having this problem.
Well, why is equipment in there? What kind of equipment are we talking about?
A welder on wheels. There's a cement mixer on wheels.
A
there's-
self-propelled wheeled conveyance such as a car or truck that does not run on rails. That's your definition on number 8. That doesn't cover what you just talked about.
Where are you reading that?
Very first page, under definitions. Motor vehicle.
There's obviously some confusion.
A cement
it-
mixer isn't a motorized
No,
vehicle.
excuse me. Let me explain this. That's the definition of a motor vehicle. This section talks about more than motor vehicles. It talks about motor vehicles, trailers, boats, and equipment. Equipment being, just like I said, a cement mixer on wheels, a welder on wheels. That's equipment on wheels. Those are large things.
But David just said, let's just go with number 8 definition.
Well, if you wanted to say the motor vehicle or equipment shall be presumed to be inoperative, if that helps you, that's not a big to-do.
I think we're arguing about how many angels can dance on the head of a
Well,
pin.
and actually, are you making a motion for an amendment, or are you just in discussion again?
I prefer discussion, but
I'd
if
prefer
you're
to
going to
mo-
leave
I'd
it like
prefer
that,
to
you
move
got
along
to fix
without
it.
without a motion on the table.
Okay, is that going to be a motion to remove number 4 from?
She made a motion.
I did that.
Okay,
That
and the
was
second?
It's
already
not been
got
seconded
shot
yet.
down.
I have
Yes,
a
it
Okay,
did.
it was
Number
shot-
4 she
Wait a minute,
did.
whoa. That one was shot down.
Yeah.
Okay. So now there is no current motion.
Yes,
No.
there just
There is
was
not a
second.
current.
Okay.
No?
Okay.
Who
there was not a
seconded it?
second. Okay.
That was me in regards to clearing up the language.
Okay. So
Well,
there's a valid motion on the table. And is there a second to that valid motion on the table? Okay, would you please read the motion again so everybody will know what you're talking
Ms.
about?
Schneider, motion to clarify items 1 through 4 under section 5.04.08.
Okay, everybody understand the motion? Is there a second to that? No second means
second.
it fails.
Instead,
Moving right
Okay,
along.
Ms. Eller, you had your hand up.
I have a question. Yeah, I have a question about this whole thing here. If
Which whole thing?
a person is restoring an antique vehicle, okay, it quite possibly might have a wheel missing, or it isn't going to be operable or something. Does that mean that you can't do that on your own property? Because there are many houses in Eureka Springs that don't have backyards. The only place you can park something is in the front, and I'm speaking of the area in which I live. They don't have backyards. You can park in front, and this is in view of the street. If you have an antique vehicle that you're restoring, does that mean you're not allowed to do that? You can't park it there?
Yep.
Because it does not fulfill all these requirements?
Correct.
Mr. DeVito.
That's correct, and that's part of the ordinance that Joe down the street's been working on that car for at least 8 or 9 years now, with the wheels off and the hood up and the engine sitting beside it in the front yard. No, this is what this ordinance is all about. Joe needs to build a garage, or Joe needs to find a house with a garage. Joe doesn't get to have all the neighbors look at the car he's been working on for 9 years sitting in the front yard.
Okay, well, in my opinion, there are too many parts of this ordinance that are really intrusive, and that is the complaint that I have been getting from the people who have been calling me. People are in favor of the demolition part. Yes, we have to get rid of these buildings that are falling down, but this business, I mean, the definition of a lawn, the lawn in front of where I live does not have grass. It's all Dutch clover. So is it in violation?
If it's over 8 inches.
Well, should my landlord get fined because, his lawn isn't grass? I mean, it's just being too strict and too intrusive. I don't think that people moved here to have all these rules and regulations.
Point of
governing
order.
What they
Point
can
of
rest.
order.
Now,
Without a motion on the table.
All right, let me recognize the point of order first before you make it. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Mr. DeVito, state your point of order, sir.
There is no motion on the table for discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Ms. Eller, do you have any further?
Okay. Well,
Wait, Mr. Weaver, go ahead.
Okay.
We got to vote on the point of order.
Actually, there is an issue on the table. Sure. The issue on the table is the whole ordinance at this point.
Right.
Okay. Do we have to vote on the point of order?
So where are we?
Mr. Weaver.
We're amending it.
I know. Well, okay. I do.
Need more specific.
What is it I need to do here to be legal?
Are you trying to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion of a specific part of this ordinance.
Go ahead. What is it?
Another ordinance. I have a lot of them, but okay. I would like to amend section 1, 5.0401, section A. I would like to exclude bamboo. I would like to say bamboo may not be cultivated within the city limits, because I think it's a fire hazard, and we don't have any limit as to how high it can get here. If we were going to keep it down to 8 inches or a foot, I might not object to it, but we have entirely too much bamboo. It has been planted, it has been cultivated, and it's a fire hazard, and I don't think it should be allowed within the city of Eureka Springs because of the danger of fire. So I think we should make it illegal to cultivate bamboo within the city limits.
Okay. Does everybody understand that motion? Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I was good until the bamboo part.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion? If there's not a second, then the motion fails.
Okay, well then, okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll vote for one here.
Next, Mr. Perkypile, do you have your hand up?
No, we're going to pass that.
Okay. All right. Anything else to discuss? Mr. Mitchell?
I make a motion, we pass ordinance as number 2201 as amended.
Second.
On third reading.
Motion made and seconded. Ms. Snyder, you got one last piece
We got
of
discussion?
discussion?
I'd like to see a motion, we go back to demolition, period. Make it two separate things. Demolition should be one thing, clean city should be another.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
He's got a motion, so I can't.
Okay. All in favor of the motion and the second? Oh, okay. All right, go ahead. Roll call. Geez, y'all lost me on that one.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Eller?
What are we voting on?
Passage of the ordinance.
Passing the ordinance with that one amendment.
We're just voting on the entire ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, no.
Ms. Snyder?
No.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Mr. Perkypile?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
4-2.
Okay. The whole thing passes.
Move to take a 5-minute recess.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not everybody said aye. I didn't hear you. There's no go unless you say aye.
Thank you.
I
Just finished three.
Really big
I
move.
just finished 3.
Gotcha.
Okay. You ready? Meeting will be back in order. We were about to do number 4 under unfinished business, which is addressing the collapsing parking lot by the auditorium.
Move to discuss.
Second.
Floor is open. Mr. Perkypile.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to give you an update. I spoke with Fire Chief, and he indicated that he would like to plan with me, and I believe some of the hazard mitigation folks, Osage group, also wanted to attend an underground investigation again of the stormwater tunnel. So when we do that, we'll take a look at that particular area and take some measurements so that we can look at that. This is the parking lot.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So that we can look at it and determine if it really does need to be closed or not.
Do you have any county officials on that in this discussion at all?
Not currently.
Okay.
No, sir.
Probably.
Do you think that'd be appropriate since that's...
We'd like to invite any county official that'd like to crawl down there with us.
There you go.
And crawl back out, right?
Ooh, is it?
They might.
Mr. McClung?
My question is the fire department and who's the other?
Osage Group is a group that the city...
He said
Oh, right here. The city hired to look into some hazard mitigation, is that correct?
Yes, FEMA requires a planning process.
Yeah, come up.
Please come up and introduce yourself.
I'm Craig Hall. The Osage Group was retained by your engineering company, Phil Swope and Gray Rock Engineering, to apparently about a year ago, y'all got a grant, and then nothing happened for a year. And we've got about 9 months or so to complete the planning process and get something filed with state emergency services and FEMA to qualify you for non-emergency assistance that can come along and mitigate hazards like the tunnels and the dam and other things. So it's a prioritization of needs process and trying to gain consensus with what's number one, what's number two in the community that we need to focus on. So it should be a fairly deliberate process. We're going to try to incorporate it with tomorrow night. We're going to the Planning Commission to kick it off because under state law you're supposed to start with the Planning Commission. And then we'll go out with the school districts and with the historic district and with parks, everybody that's in part of the community. And we've already had interviews with the police chief, fire chief, all those folks to try to come through a consensus building process to arrive at, do we need to get money for the tunnel or the dam or what's the biggest deal?
Yes.
So sorry to take up your time.
And actually, I forgot to mention that part of that process that Osage Group will be involved with will be also looking at what we could or should do with Black Bass Lake Dam.
Good.
So I'd like to table this until the next meeting,
Okay.
until I have a chance to discuss it.
Wait,
Mr. Snyder has a question. for
with
you.
all the rain coming in this week, is it possible to plan this for the end of the week? So you can get a true look at what the rain is doing.
No, it's unsafe.
Oh, okay. Just a thought there.
So postpone to the next meeting?
Yes, sir. Just like to
Okay.
keep it on.
Is there a second on the postpone?
Second.
Okay. All right, that moves us on to number 5, which would be discussion of the noise ordinance draft. Motion to discuss.
Motion to discuss.
Second.
Floor is open. Mr. Mitchell.
We have before us an unassigned ordinance number that discusses noise of the Eureka Springs Municipal Code, adding a section to Chapter 7.16, noise of the Eureka Springs Municipal Code to address vehicles, machinery, and equipment in sound-producing devices. In short summary, again, Council allowed us to have myself as a representative council person and a diverse group of citizens to meet to discuss the topic of noise and specifically look at the current noise ordinance and then to try and clarify and clean it up a little bit. And we had, again, a very diverse group that did that and came up with this amended ordinance to the current one. And then there's two components here. One would also be there was a suggestion about signage. Now, but I think the signage, truthfully, is a topic that belongs to the mayor as the administrator of the city and the director of public works. I don't think council should be involved. I could be terribly wrong, but I think the issue of putting signs up, say if it was noise ordinance strictly enforced or noise ordinance enforced, belongs in the jurisdiction of the mayor and not council. So that leaves us to discuss the issue of noise. This is not an ordinance that is crafted to look at any one segment of the tourist population that comes here. Constantly people seem to be trying to take this noise ordinance and hijack it and turn it into something that it's not. It is not a anti-motorcycle ordinance. It's to discuss the topic of noise. Noise is being discussed from New York City to New Orleans and its impact on the citizens and the residents that are in that area. And that's exactly what we met in an attempt to do. So, it was shameful that when some of us got together that the Northwest Arkansas paper decided to try and take the great interviews that we gave and turn it into an anti-motorcycle ordinance on us again, because that was incorrect and showed a tremendous bias on a certain person's part towards a population that comes to this town. We've been very careful to work with the chamber and the CAPC when they go out to do things, and we've tried very hard to, again, keep this on the topic of noise. And with that, I'll turn it over to the rest of council.
Anybody else? Mr. McClung.
Mr. Mayor, we have a noise ordinance in place that with the level of what we can do as far as policing any of it, it's not going to really, I can't see it increasing. If we're restricting more than what we already have, I don't really see any change in the status quo, even with the change in the ordinance. So I'm more inclined just to leave it as it is.
I'd like to ask Mr. Mitchell a question about the consistency and the makeup of the group. Did we get input from the police department and especially from our police chief regarding this ordinance? And he indicated that it was appropriate. Did he indicate that it would help them?
Yes, and the reason it would, because we had Al Frost. Did I do it right? I don't want to. A little confused right now, and I don't want to mess up somebody's name. I have a tendency to do that. Al was on the committee from meeting 1. He was an excellent representative for us to have on there because he brought a perspective about dealing with noise in this community and how the police handled the issue that personally I was totally unaware of, and I think was very enlightening for the a very diverse group on that committee. And what you have here, he informed us, which I was unaware, that there is a state statute, I think something called loud mufflers is currently what the police use when they write tickets for motor vehicles of all types that are excessively noisy. And the mayor can obviously correct me if I'm wrong, and I certainly welcome that, because I don't want to make a mistake. But that fine, then, because it's a state statute, most of that money migrates up to the state level. But one of the advantages of clarifying this way is that the police now have a local city ordinance that has been expanded that would allow, should they be writing the tickets here, that the money would stay. I don't think that we're going to find a major change in how the